So Jacky, can
Yes,
you help me to share, that what is the biggest problem that you see on the hardware startup?
yes, best. So number one, most time the reason why I start Alphataba it's because so many startups they were saying manufacturing, I mean prototyping for PCB assembly is very expensive, especially at beginning with no volume kind of prototyping like one boards, two boards, five boards, or 10 boards, right? And even though they make it in the USA, the neighbor is really costly. The only benefit to get it done in here is the timing. They can get it in local, right? But for some company, they can afford it. For some company, they can't afford it for making a ball or two ball cost $9,000, right? It's few days. And they say timing is not an issue. They rather like to wait for a few days, but to save kind of $1,000 for a startup company. So uh, after then, so I realized there's a way to do it. Is number one is to be transparent because regardless when they doing in the USA or China, for small kind of volume kind of prototyping, always involved the labor and setup charge, okay, and also the stencil and other kind of tooling cost, right? And then um, I came up with the idea is I really like to help all hardware kind of company to success. I do want to see them to success. That's why. So I create a platform so which is kind of annual membership plan. So people paying $899, they will be access to our trial plan, and then to get 50 board made with 2 POs. Okay, so $899 will cover for all their labor cost, like setup charge, SNT labor cost, and also the stencils, and also the shipping cost. Okay, so single the shipping cost can cost kind of $100 to deliver to the USA here. So by doing so, startup will be able to save money at beginning. Okay, they can spend more money to kind of develop their products instead of spending too much money on making the prototyping. So they get struggle at beginning because they paying too much money to make prototypes, like $1,000 at the beginning. So I think every company they have an issue at that stage, right? For all the startups. So that's they facing. So that's why we're here to help.
Yeah, I want to verify this because I have spent 3 years working on hardware. And first, when I get the quote or invoice
Mm-hmm.
from the contract manufacturer, they always, charge us a tencel. So what is tencel is, it's a template that you put the solder paste into the PCBA because each PCBA board is unique. So you have to pay, the tencel fee, so that, they can, that's part of, the PCBA manufacturing. And then, they also charge for non-recurring engineering time. So if they actually take any time to do any custom, consultation and advice, so they charge you, for the time to help you fix up. Then, they also charge you on factory. For example, every time when you run a factory batch, and it's true, it actually incur costs, to the factory owners because I work with, a manufacturing owners. So he told me, about all his costs. He said that, that is something that, is unavoidable because every time when they schedule a batch run, they have to shut down, the other batch, and they have to clean up the equipment, and then they have to spend time, cleaning the machine and getting ready to run the batch. So it's not, just the time that they run your batch, but they need, to charge you for, setting up, closing, the batch. And each time, when they run a batch, because, they have very huge, machine. I wish, I can actually start teaching a class and show you, what it's like, being in China, working with a China manufacturer, because I was able to walk around and work with the factory engineering team, and know the whole process, see all the machinery, and they will to run a small batch, just turn on the machine, they have to run 1,000 per hour. So, and they have to run a half day or one day to make it worthwhile to do all the prep time to set up and close down. So that's why there's a minimum charge. So for the PCBA it's the same. You have to run the minimum is like 10 or 30, or they need to do more in order to just set up the machine to run one PCA. And so I was amazed that what Jacky can do, to minimize all these upfront costs. And I do want to mention about for startup working on non-electronics, you can still consider having Jacky, because manufacturing is not just PCBA or with electronics, because if you actually have to build a prototype, you need to access 3D printing. So there's all sort of 3D printing, and different machines, different material, and it can even involve in food, drink related, because if you have to make any silicon, they also can print silicon and flex 3D materials. And then this time we didn't talk about packaging. Packaging is another big area, and I actually have been collecting a good network of packaging manufacturing that I would like to share. Sometime I will invite some vendor to talk about packaging, because there's a big change on the type of packaging that we will use to minimize waste. But Jacky, can you share what is the best advice for hardware startup founders?
This is a good question, Bess. So it's tricky in this question. Number one reason is I don't understand, because each startup, they have a different product, right? And then the required kind of manufacturing process different. So I would say case by case, but usually what I see at the beginning, what I suggest is before pandemic, you will be able to travel to China to validate the manufacturer, right? Before you start making whatever production or prototyping, you can always fly there and then to see how they work and then how they manufacture it. But for now, you can't really see it anymore unless you kind of have to do it in the local, right? But the cost wise in the USA is it's about 3 times, 4 times more than making it in overseas. So what I would recommend is searching from your network and then to see who been kind of done certain project with a certain manufacturer and they have a good reputation. You don't just want to go to kind of Google and then never making business with them and then doing the first kind of 100 or 200 batches. Then it's kind of risky. And for after pandemic, the best way to do is to go through the source you know very well. Okay, so after pandemic, so you can still fly to China and then to validate the manufacturer.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned pandemics. Can you actually, tell us, what used to be like before the pandemics and how the pandemics, completely changed everything?
Yes. Before pandemic, so I probably will need to fly to China once every month or once every quarter at least with my kind of customers. Okay. Every time when they have a new product introduction or they have a kind of the other kind of batch of kind of mass production. So after the parts being made, so they will bring their team. Yeah, they will bring their team especially with the engineering team, to stop by our manufacturer and then to oversee the manufacturing process. Okay, so therefore, because every time you can always find some small issues when you were doing manufacturing, right? And then we can resolve the issue together in and on the production line at that point. But now you can't travel, you can't even get a visa to China anymore, right? And then what that means, you can only see it from video, but it's hard, it's very difficult at this stage. So what I recommend our customers for now is we need to go to kind of more fundamental work, like I mentioned earlier, to understand what you really need and then what you've been looking for. And then documentation. It's very important to provide us the right documentation, especially kind of SOP, right? The correct. And then we will report it back to them if we have any issues. And before is if we get a PO, we will manufacture and then they will start by China. We're working with them. For now, we will by providing a golden sample at beginning before mass production. So let's say for now, a customer wants to manufacture 10,000 pieces or units, right? We won't start making 10,000 right away for them. We will start making 10 or 20 as golden sample and then send it to them by air. And then they will look at it, testing with the packaging, everything. Okay. And then once they validate everything's right, and then we'll kick off on the rest in our production. That's what we change right now to make sure everything's right.